In March 2026, the Pentagon faced intense scrutiny, often dubbed Lobstergate, after reports revealed it spent approximately 6.9 million on lobster tail during the single month in the late 2025. According to an analyst by the watchdog Open the Books, this was part of record-breaking 93.4 billion use it or lose it spending spree in 2025, the final month of the fiscal year. Seafood, 6.9 million on lobster tail and 2 million on Alaskan king crab. Damn, they was eating good. 6.9 on lobster tail and 2 million alone on king crab. 15.1 million on ribeye steaks and 1 million on salmon. Roughly 140K on donuts. God, what? And 124K on ice cream machines. Oh no, they capping now, ladies and gentlemen. 98K Steinway. So they bought a 98K piano, 5.3 million Apple devices. Oh, they living good. And $225. No, I said $225. 225 million on furniture. Use it or lose it, federal agencies often exhaust their remaining budgets before the September 30th deadline to avoid potential funding cuts in the following year. So they was forced to spend it and they spent it on ice cream machines and furniture, ladies and gentlemen. Traditionally, an increase in luxury surf and turf meals at military facilities is viewed as a precursor to deployments or combat operations. Crazy work, ladies and gentlemen. So I wanted to go to Google before I share other people's insight. Let's go straight into the content.
On crabs and lobster. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Pentagon, apparently isn't feeling the same affordability struggles as many American or average Americans as he approved spending more than $93 billion in September, including on luxury food items and iPads. A new analysis published by government watchdog Open the Books found that in September, the end of the 2025 fiscal year, Hegseth reportedly burned through cash, including spending $9 million on crab and lobster dinners. According to military.com. Fam, I don't understand. I don't think y'all understand. Me just reading this is doing something to my health. I'm reading it, but it's stressing me the hell out.
If it's coming to the point where it's stressing you out, then it's time to step away and go walk the dog and get some sunlight and enjoy the fruits of your labor. Because right now, ladies and gentlemen, they are energy harvesting now more than ever. Me myself, I was on a streak for the time span of 2026. I was going live stream like crazy. Shout out to YouTube. I was able to get monetized off of live streaming, but it came to a point where I had to just step back, and now I'm going to make videos, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, there's a lot of content, there's a lot of stuff to cover, but in that same token, you're only human. You can only take care of yourself, because if you don't, who is? If you're coming to the point where you're stressed out because there's a lot of information, these Epstein files, apparently we're in war, people talking about you ready to be deported. On top of now this news here of the government eating good with lobster tails, once again, if it becomes to a point where it's so overwhelming, shut down all social media, turn off the TV, and enjoy the fruits of your labor. You work hard, go out to eat, get some sun, enjoy your life, because you only got one. How are you going to spend the rest of your life stressing out on what's going on in the world? Even though there's a lot of stuff going on, that being said, we can't be at that state every single day. That is taxing on the body.
I know some of y'all say don't let it get to you, man. It is what it is now, man. Because I'm thinking about all of the people who could have used that money. I'm thinking about how people suffering right.
Once again, shout out to Really D. Link's gonna be in the description if you would want to see the whole length of this video. But if it comes to a point, ladies and gentlemen, to where you're stressed out so much to where you can't function, you can't eat, you can't step outside because you're so hindered, you're handicapped because of what's happening in the world, then it's time to take a break because stress is real. And when the body's stressed out, organs shut down. So we have to try our best not to get to that point. Easier said than done, but we have to try, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot be stressed out to a point where it affects our health.
Nah, man, and they blowing money like this. According to military.com, an increase in military officials eating pricey meals has traditionally been viewed as a sign that something may be brewing, such as President Donald Trump's war in Iran, though it appears Hegseth has been dining well at the Pentagon since at least last spring. The spending review found that in the month of September alone, the Defense Department spent $6.9 million in total on lobster tails and $2 million on Alaskan king crab, according to the government watchdog. In 2025, the department also spent more than $7.4 million on lobster tail across the months of March, May, June, and October. The decadent seafood wasn't the only expensive sustenance purchased at the Pentagon. Hegseth also spent approximately $15.1 million on ribeye steak in September, $124,000.
Yo, keep it a stack, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at how much they're spending, my intrusive thought right now, I want to buy me a large cheese pizza. Yo, I'm trying my best to get that summer body, and you have to sacrifice to get what you want. So I'm gonna try my best to fight the temptation. No promises, though, ladies and gentlemen. No promises.
For a new ice machine or machines, and $139,224 on donut orders. Whoo, man, sugar, do your thing. Due to the way federal funding works, there is pressure on department heads to end their fiscal years without a surplus of funds. If they do, it raises questions in Congress as to whether or not the agency or department needs a reduction in its annual budget. So let's stop right there. We'll come back. So basically what they're saying is use it or lose it. That said, some of the purchases are lavish. In September, Hegseth spent nearly $100,000 on a Steinway & Sons grand piano to outfit the home of the Air Force Chief of Staff. He also spent $5.3 million on Apple services, including brand new iPads, according to the report. The Pentagon paid $225.6 million for furniture, including $12,540 for fruit basket stands and more than $60,000 for high-end furniture maker Herman Miller recliners. The agency spent more money on furniture in 2025 than it has since 2014. So in 1 year, they spent more money than they had spent the previous 11 years. The article says, to be fair, Hegseth, the military, has been spending enormous amounts of money on furniture for decades. According to the analysis, the Defense Department has spent an average of $257.6 million on furniture every September since 2008, marking a 564% on average increase above its typical furniture spending throughout the year. So they create Doge to save the taxpayers billions, while at the same time spending hundreds of millions on furniture, new furniture every damn year. Every year. They getting the top of the line furniture that would probably, if I would take a wild guess, it's the best of the best furniture. So that furniture probably is heirloom type furniture, the kind of furniture that could last for 50, 60 years, in great shape for at least 10 to 20 years. But they're spending over $257 million every single year replacing it. Hegseth isn't actually the worst offender. Former President Barack Obama routinely spent between $300 to $400 million on furniture in September during his years in office, according to the report. So listen, family, these motherfuckers are spending damn near $500 million on new White House furniture every single year. Every year, they're spending damn near $500 million on furniture. No wonder America is got $40 damn trillion in debt. They spending $500 million off of just for furniture every year. Spending on furniture decreased under President Joe Biden, though it's worth noting his first 2 years saw many federal employees working from home due to the coronavirus pandemic. So had it not been for the coronavirus pandemic, he would have probably spent over $250 million for furniture. The Pentagon's most expensive spending spree during September was on grants and contracts. In that month alone, the Defense Department spent more than $90 billion on contracts and on grants and contracts. So that's where the majority of the billion, the $93 billion went. But even still, let's take a look at that $90 billion for grants and contracts. Family, you know that money could have been better used to help out our vets, right? Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury, this is good news, a New Mexico Democrat, said she planned to launch an investigation into Hegseth's spending. In addition to billions of taxpayer dollars being burned in this war in Iran, reports are showing that Secretary Pete Hegseth blew $93 billion in federal DOD funding at the end of last year. She said, "You better believe we'll be investigating." Democratic Congressman Chuck Schumer called Hegseth a grifter on social media. Hegseth spent $93 billion in 1 month, roughly the cost of extending the ACA tax credits for 3 years. But instead of lowering America's health care costs, Hegseth used millions of taxpayers' dollars on fruit baskets, Herman Miller recliners, ice cream machines, Alaskan king crabs, and Steinway and Sons grand piano. He wrote, "A true grifter in every sense of the word. This is cold-blooded, fam. Like $93 billion. Hey man, they could have kicked that back and brought healthcare all the way down. They could have made healthcare affordable for all Americans." See, the thing is, fam, is that this country.
Do you remember when just a little bit ago we talked about how the Pentagon was racking their brains to figure out how are we going to spend this extra $500 billion that for some reason Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump thinks we need? Well, that's $25 million on furniture in 1 month. 225 million. If you asked me,
ladies and gentlemen, in 1 month is crazy. What? But they had to spend it, right? Because they didn't want their funding to be decreased.
how much does all the furniture in America cost? I'd guess, I don't know, 200 million? They spent that much in 1 month, the most since 2014. That included $12,000 on fruit basket stands. I don't even know what a fruit basket stand is. When you want fruit to stand up, you can just put it in the basket. It doesn't need its own stand. They spent $60,000 on premium Herman Miller chairs. I honestly don't even think that's that many chairs. They purchased $2 million worth of Alaskan king crab in 1 month. They've done that 5 times while Donald Trump has been president. 5 times they've spent $2 million on crab in 1 month. Musical instruments, also very expensive, but well worth it for military purposes. They spent nearly $100,000 on a Steinway and Sons grand piano, a $26,000 violin, a $21,000 handmade Japanese flute. That was among the $1.8 million spent on instruments. There better be a fancily clad bard marching with our soldiers into war with these expensive ass instruments, because otherwise I really want to know what Pete Hegseth is doing with that flute that merits that much expense. So anyway, look, the list very much goes on and on and on. It was $93 billion in 1 month. And that is so egregious that even some Republican senators have a problem with it. So Joni Ernst said, if taxpayers are going to be asked to spend $1.5 trillion on defense, nearly as much as the rest of the world combined, Washington must be able to defend how every dollar is being spent. Open the Books' findings, that's the group that did the investigation we're quoting here, that binge buying bureaucrats at the Pentagon burned through tens of billions of dollars on impulse purchases like fruit basket stands, footrests, donuts by the dozen, and a custom-made flute demonstrate how much work still needs to be done to meet that goal. And I just want to remind all of you that they're sitting there, they're like, oh my God, we got to spend so much money to end this month. They're planning a war that is not going to be even covered by the military budget. They know we're going to have to request billions of additional dollars once we go to war. But for now, I hunger for crab and my fruit.
Sorry, people are cutting the grass outside, so I got the microphone on mute. Keep it a stack, ladies and gentlemen. You know, as much as I would love to buy pizza, I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna try my best not to, man. Man, the temptations are at a high. Looking at all these millions and millions of dollars, they're spending millions of dollars, ladies and gentlemen, on crab. And I feel some type of a way about buying pizza. So hold on. So I can feel some type of way buying a $7 to $10 pizza from Domino's, but they have no conscience in spending millions of dollars on crap when that money could have been used for something like helping the community, such as these homeless people in the streets, a program to get them back on their feet, you know, actually giving back to the community, not eating crab and steak and buying millions of dollars of ice cream machines and fruit stands. Like, what? Crazy work.
Isn't elevated enough for me. Can somebody get that a little bit higher up in the air? That's what we're paying for. So by the way, when I say cut the military budget by 50% as starters, this is why I say that sort of thing. And I think that if you made the case to the American public, I think they would be on for it. Oh, I also want to mention this before we move on. Kristi Noem, she's not in a position to spend this sort of money anymore. Do you remember, we reported on this too. She spent millions of dollars wrapping ICE vehicles with cool logos so they could be in her videos, and she looked so tough and badass. It's like she was in a rap video or something. Yeah, it turns out when you do that and when you put ICE all over the vehicles, ICE agents don't want to use it for some understandable reasons. The first being that it is harder to surprise migrants when it's...
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of the ICE agents is to be secretive, to be, you know, behind the scenes. They're not trying to be seen. How they're supposed to deport people if they got ICE? Just like when you see the police cars, you automatically, subconsciously, you know it. You do not keep that same energy. If you're speeding, you definitely slow down, right? Keep it a stack. You slow down. You wasn't following the speed limit when that cop wasn't there. So why would ICE be any different? So that was just very idiotic.
It's like, we're coming to deport you on the side of the thing with like underlighting and a big Paul Walker spoiler and everything. Also because their tomatoes are gonna get thrown at the vehicles and everything. Like, they don't want to be identified as ICE. What part of masking their face did you not understand? So those vehicles are just sitting.
Crazy work, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.